Sadashiva Samarambham Śaṅkarāchārya Madhyamam Asmadācārya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Tapobhihi Krina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshunam Apekshyoyam Atmabodho Vidhiyate. We finished with the 14th shloka wherein Karanopadhi was described. So Atman exists with the Sthula Upadhi, Sukshma Upadhi and the Karana Upadhi, but it is beyond all three of them because it does not get attached to any of those three Upadhis. So Anadi Avidya Nirvachya Karana Upadhi Uchyate. Karana Upadhi is this Anadi Avidya or Maya, which extends for from time immemorial. It's an expression that we use, right? So from a long time, there is no Adi for it. There is no Utpatti for this Maya. It exists. These are certain the things that we accept as Anadi in Advaita Vedānta. So Anadi Avidya Nirvachya. It is a Karana Upadhi is indicated by this, Maya is indicated by Karana Upadhi, and Upadhi Tritayadapi Anyam Atmanam Avadharayet. We have to understand this Atma as being beyond or separate from these three. Separate in the sense, even though it is confined by all these things, it is not affected by these three upadhis. That's why we say Anyam Atmanam iti. We went through some of the Vyakhyanas. I think we finished that. The 15th shloka here, before we start off, the avatarika here is Nanu Dehendriyadi Rupena Sthitasya Atmanaha Katham Tad Vilakshanatvam Nityamuktatvam. Atma, which is constantly present with the limiting adjuncts, right? So we see Karana Upadhi, Sthula Upadhi, Sukshma Upadhi, all of these Upadhis are constantly present with the Atma. So Deha, Indriyadi, Rupena, Sthitasya Atmanaha. But how do we perceive that Atma? We don't perceive the Atma as separate and there are three coverings for that Atma. That's not how practically we view the Atma. When we are talking in layman terms, we say, okay, my body, I have become thin, I have become fat. So we think of this I as Deha. Deha Rupena Atma Sthitaha. Indriya Rupena, I can't see, or, my sight is not working is fine, but then I can't see. I cannot smell. So again, Indriya dharmas are taken as Atma dharma. So Indriya Rupena Atma Sthitaha. This is how we function in normal life. This is the parlance we use when we talk to people. We don't constantly say, this eye is not functioning. This nose is not functioning. This body seems to be... Nobody talks in that manner. We are always talking with respect to Deha Rupena Atma Vartate Athava Indriya Rupena Atma Vartate Ityeva Tatra Vyavaharaha Vartate. That's how we talk. So Katham Tad Vilakshanatvam. Then how do we think of this Atma as different from Deha and Indriya? When we have to talk of this Atma through the adjunct, through the Upadhi, through the Sharira, through the Indriyam, Katham Tad Vilakshanatvam ityukte, Katham Dehendriyadinam Vilakshanatvam, Dehendriyadibhyaha Vilakshanatvam. How is there tasmat vilakshanam? So how is it different from Deha, Indriya, etc.? And how is it Nityamuktam? Nityamuktatvam cha Atmanaha katham. How can Atma have this quality of being ever mukta, ever liberated? So the answer here is in the form of this shloka. So Panchakoshadi Yogena Tattanmaya iva sthitaha Shuddha Atma Neelavastradi Yogena Sphatikaha Yatha. Now he gives the example of a Spatikam. The Spatika is very translucent. It can take on the color of whatever is present nearby. We usually talk about a Japa Kusumam near a hibiscus flower near a Spatika. Probably because Spatikam is linga shape in our mind, and we throw a flower on, offer a flower to the Spatika lingam. But then here he gives a different kind of idea. Neela Vastram iti. That's also possible. Neelam is again Shiva here. So Neelavastradi Yogena Spatikaha Yata. Spatika doesn't have any color there. When I put on a blue vastram nearby, or around it, or side, even if I place a blue color cloth on the side, the spatikam looks blue. So it takes on, it absorbs that color, or it just not even absorb, that color seems to be present within that spatikam. If I put in a red flower, that redness seems to have been transferred to the spatikam, but seems to have been, but it is not there actually. In the same manner, when we cover this Atma around with the 5 koshas, Pancha koshadi yogena, Tattanmaya iva sthitaha. So Pancha kosha here is Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya Pancha koshaha. Tadadinam, Pancha koshadinam. So the yogena by the adhyasa or the superimposition of these 5 koshas. So what is this yoga? Yoga is just not just connection or samipyam or sambandha or anything of that sort. The sambandha here is yoga, here is adhyasa or superimposition. Okay, so Ādi Shabdat Jati Namadinam cha Atmabuddhyoho Atyanta Sannidhyat Adhyasa Sambandhena. That is important for us. Adhyasa Sambandhena eva. So Pancha Koshadi Yogena, by the association of the 5 koshas. What form is that association? Yoga. It is in this form of Adhyasa, superimposition. So it is an illusory appearance in the Atman. Each one of those koshas contribute to the us thinking of the Atma as different. So when we look at Annamaya kosha, it is this Shariram. So I say, I have grown thin, I have become fat. These sort of Annamaya koshasya sannidhyat adhyasena, we are looking at Atma itself as the Annamaya kosha. So tattanmayena, tattatmayaha iva sthitaha shuddha atma. Atma by nature is shuddha. It is a shuddha atma, but it seems as if it is present. Sthitaha iva. It seems as if it is present in the form of that particular thing. So tattanmaya, it's a literal translation that I'm saying, but then it seems to have been transformed into that particular kosha based on whichever kosha we are trying to look at. If we are trying to look at the Atma through the Annamaya kosha, then that's how it's going to be. Correct? But there is no association there. Just like how, if we look, there are, let's say, there is a Spatika Lingam here, a huge Spatikam. You have 5 different colored objects around it. You have a blue cloth, a red flower, maybe a yellow ball, something or the other. You have 5 colored objects around one Spatika Lingam. And 5 people are standing there. Each one will look at that Spatika with that particular color. In the same manner, when I am looking at this Atma through my body, I will be saying, I am thin, I am tall, I am, so Pancha Koshadi Yogena Tattanmaya. So if I look at it through my stomach or through my pranan, then I say, oh, I am hungry, I am thirsty. Then the pranan functions there. No, I am not feeling well. My mind, instead of that, you say, I think I'm crazy. Something like that when you use, then your mind, you are looking at the Atma through the Manomaya kosha there. When you say, I slept really well, I didn't know anything, then you are looking at it through the Anandamaya kosha. So each of those koshas act like one of the object near a spatikam through which you are viewing the Atma. But the Atma is Shuddha. Is that clear? So Ashuddha Annamayadihi. Annamayadi koshaha tu tatra ashuddhaha vartante. They are coloring our perspective here. Each of those koshas are coloring our perspective. Whereas the Atma, tad vilakshanaha, there should be a na here. Someone has corrected in the text. Tad vilakshanaha, shuddha Atma. Atma is shuddham, that is, it is kutasthaha, there is no change. Asangaha, it does not get connected with any of these panchakosha. Chidrupaha, it is of the state of consciousness. How do we view it? Tattanmayaha, a Paramatma. It is the Paramatma. And Tattat Swarupaiva Sthitaha. Natu Tattat Rupena. It does not transform itself as the Annamaya Kosha. The Atma does not transform itself as Pranamaya. It does not completely transform itself. Tatha nasti. It is more like the perspective of it is like that. It is as if it is being in the form of Annamaya Kosha, as if it is being viewed upon as Manomaya Kosha. That's all. Is clear? So, Pancha Koshadi, there is an Ādi Padam here, etc. So, not only Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya Kosha, the other external ideas of Jati, Nama are also inputted onto Atma when the Atma does not have any of these things. Right? Aham Visalakshi, that sort of a name. It's not, Aham cannot be Visalakshi. It is this body complex that is being indicated by the name of Visalakshi. The Atma does not get that name. The same goes for Jati. Aham Kshatriyaha, Aham Vaishyaha. This kind of a Jati input is also not for the Atma, but it is only for the Kosha, Pancha Kosha. Okay. So that's why he says, etc. can go to Jati Namadinam api. Atma Buddhyoho Atyanta Sannidhyat, because that Jati, Nama, etc. are very close to Atma is Manas here, and Buddhi is the intellect. It is very close to Atma and Buddhi, and hence you are doing the Adhyasa. So as Spatika Lingam is here and the Neela Vastram is somewhere else, then you're not going to see the effect of it. Only when it is very close, that is when you are going to see it. So Sannidhyam is necessary. So that is why I am affected by my Stula body, not by your Stula body. Because this Annamaya Kosha, these Pancha Koshas are very closely associated with the Atma. So there is an Adhyasa that is possible. Otherwise, it is not possible. Okay. So Pancha Koshadi Yogena Tattanmaya Iva Sthitaha Shuddhatma Neelavastradi Yogena Sphatikaha Yata Etena Atmanaha Panchakoshadi Vilakshanatvam Nityamuktatvam cha Samyak Uktam. So that's why he said Dehendriyadi Rupena Sthitasya Atmanaha. It is of the form of Deha, of the form of Indriya. Iti Purvam, we started off with this question. But then he says, no, it is not the form. It seems as if it is the form, but it is in fact like a Vastram near Spatikam. Okay. Now he has answered that question here. Now the next one, it will take about 2 classes because the Vyakhyana has a couple of things there. So we will just go over the Sloka and the Vyakhyanam we will take it up in the next class. Tarhi Panchakoshatmatvena Pratiyamanam Atmanam Vivichya Tad Vilakshanattvena Katham Janiyat. Now, these Panchakoshas are acting as an Upadhi. They are very close to the Atma, and hence, because of superimposition, we are perceiving the Atma through each one of those coverings. Each one of those Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, etc. So, Panchakoshatmatvena Pratiyamanam. Now he moves. He doesn't say Dehendriya, etc. Now he moves and says, okay, Panchakoshas are present. Fine. Now, we are viewing this Atma through these Panchakosha, or viewing the Atma as being present in the form of this Tattanmayatvena Pashyamaha. Right? That's what he said in the earlier sloka. Because of the 5 koshas, we are looking at the Atma as being present in the form of these 5 koshas. Tattanmayatvena, as if the Spatikam is blue, as if the Spatikam is yellow. Right? So, Panchakoshatmatvena pratiyamanam atmanam. When this Atma is being constantly perceived in the form of these five koshas, how do we separate it and understand? Vivichya, how do we separate it? Tad vilakshanattvena katham janiyat. How do we understand it as different from the Panchakosha? If we are constantly perceiving this Atma through these five koshas, how is it possible to separate it from the five koshas? As is, Vapuhu tushadibihi koshaihi yuktam yukti avaghatataha atmanam antaram shuddham vivichyat tandulam yatha. The example he gives here is very nice. You have rice, it is present with the husk. If you have to remove the husk and understand only that rice, if you have to get the grain of the rice, you'll have to remove the coatings of husk, etc. Right? You first remove the husk, then there is something, the second layer, which is just stuck to the rice really hard, and then you will have to remove that coating also, and then come to the white part. You'll have to polish it, and then you'll have to get that white grain. How do you get to that? We have to keep hitting it. Avaghata, right? So that avaghatam here is our yukti. We have to constantly keep on doing some kind of a logic or jnanam, constantly keep telling us, like auto suggestion, we have to keep telling us so that the kosha is separated from the atma, and our shuddha atma is understood separately. So, Shuddham Atmanam Vivichyat. You have to separate the Shuddha Atma from these koshas. Koshaihi Yuktam Atmanam. Antaram Shuddham Vivichya. Antaram is koshaihi Antaram Vivichya. You will have to understand the difference between the two of them. So, Antaram is Bedam. Vapuhu, this body, which is, Vapus tushadibihi, Vapuhu is the deham, the body. The Vapuhu antaram, buddhyadehe antaram, koshaihi yuktam Vapuhu, this body which has the five koshas, annamayadi koshaihi yuktam, anvitam. Vapuhu, this body which is present with all of these five koshas, Antaram, buddhyadehe api antaram shuddham. Antaram, in between, there is this buddhi, etc. also. And you understand that this vapuhu and atma are different from each other. Okay. How do you go with that? Tushadibihi tandulam yatha. Tusha is husk. Just as how tandulam, the grain of rice, is different from the tusha, etc. So, tushabihi yuktam tandulam yatha, just as how the grain of rice is present with the husk and other koshas, how do you vivichyat? How do you separate and understand? Yukti avagatataha. Yukti avaghataha, meaning Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanadi, Yuktihi eva avahananam. Avahananam is hitting. You take the rice and keep the grains. To remove the husk, you have to actually beat it on the ground for the husk to be removed. Okay, that is avahananam. This is in the olden days practice, not our machine removal today. So, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanam is your yukti. That is the practice or the methodology which you have to follow to understand that this Atma is separated from the Panchakosha. Now, what are all the yuktis that you have to use to understand? Annamaya Kosha is different from Atma. Pranamaya Kosha is different. Manomaya Kosha is different. So, he takes examples from a text called Swatma Nirupanam, which is another text written by Bhagavatpada himself. So, we have the advantage of reading two texts now at the same time. So, he is going to give us shlokas from that Swatma Nirupanam, the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. So, these are the shlokas that he gives us from the Swatma Nirupanam to explain what is the methodology that we have to use to separate Atma from Annamaya Kosha. Separate Atma from Pranamaya Kosha or Manomaya Kosha, Anandamaya and Vijnanamaya. He gives us the Yukti. Yukti in the sense, the logic behind why this is different from the other. So Atma na Annamaya Kosha. Atma cannot be Annamaya Kosha because Annamaya Kosha is Jada. It is like Ghatavat, Jadatvat, Ghatavat. See, it follows the Tarka methodology. Atma na Annamayaha. What is the reason here? Pratignya Vakyam. Then you have the Hetu Vakyam, Jatatvat. Udaharana Vakyam, Ghatavat. Okay, Pragutpattehe Pradvamsanantaramapi tad abhavasyapi drishyamanatvat. So prag utpattehe, before the pot is created, and after the pot is destroyed, pradvamsa anantaram. Utpattehe prag, before the pot is created, utpattehe prag, pradvamsa anantaram, after the destruction of the pot, there is no pot. So ghatasya abhavaha eva drishyate. So tad abhavasyapi drishyamanatvat. In the same way, this body also, before it was created, in the garbha, let's say, in the mother's womb, before it was created, it did not exist. This body did not exist. So prag utpattehe sharirasya abhavaha drishyate. Annamaya sharirasya abhavaha drishyate. Pratvamsanantaram, marananantaram, after death, again sharirasya abhavaha drishyate. Hence, this shariram should be jada vastu. It does not have a chaitanyam. It cannot be atma, because from shastras we know that atma is nityam. Atma cannot get destroyed. It is not born. Na jayate, na mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyah. Right? Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano. Na hanyate, hanyamane sharire. When this body is being destroyed, that doesn't get destroyed. So Shastra gives us, Smriti is also a Shastram for us that way. So it gives us the yukti that it is not destroyed. Whereas this Annamaya Kosha, we see that this Annamaya Kosha keeps getting destroyed. Hence, Atma cannot be this Annamaya Kosha. So the first yukti that we use is Jadatvat, Ghatavat. So Atma is separate from Annamaya Kosha. He goes on to give the explanation. He substantiates it with Bhagavad Pada's shloka itself. Okay. So Vapuhu idam Annamaya Akhya Koshaha. This Vapuhu, this body is Annamaya Kosha. Na Atma. It is not Atma. Jadaha Ghataprayaha. It is a Jada Vastu, like a Ghata Prayaha, or very similar to Ghata. Pragutpattehe, before the creation of the Ghata, or before the creation of this body. Paschat cha, Paschat is after the destruction of it also. Tad abhavasyapi drishyamanatvat. Because we see the abhava, the absence of the pot or the absence of the shariram before its creation and after its destruction. Drishyamanatvat. It is very evidently seen. It's very clearly seen that it is absent before and after. So which means it is a jada vastu. So next is Pranamaya Kosha. We'll go on to that next class. Okay.